This content is being brought to you by the Bourbon Real Talk American Whiskey Aroma Kit. This is a tool that I put together to help all you whiskey aficionados out there develop your palates. You can sit down with the vials and train your senses, or you can sit down with a great dram and break that whiskey down to its components. If you have any interest of purchasing a kit of your own, head on over to bourbonrealtalk.com/shop and pick one up. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning into part 2 of Celebrity Experiences with Tony Lucca. If you didn't get a chance, go back to the list of episodes and listen to part 1 first. You will not regret it. The stories he's told in there are absolutely amazing. We would love it if you would subscribe, like, and review. And as always, thank you for tuning in. After we recorded last time for 2 hours, we spent the whole evening together, right? And as the evening went on, I realized I could record 100 of these because you're filled with so many mind-blowing stories, and we'd never cover the same material twice. So with all of these interactions that you've had that have been positive, there had to have been some negative ones. I asked you last time what was your scariest fan situation, and you talked about kind of what maybe even brought an end to the Mickey Mouse Club. There was some threats from somebody that was possibly associated with the mafia. Mm-hmm. Can you think of any other situations that you've been in that felt unsafe or scary because of your celebrity?
Not so much, man. You know, again, I feel like I kind of have come in under the radar on most things. I just remember, like, at the onset, once I left Michigan to go do this whole Mickey Mouse Club thing, we joined the cast. The show had been in motion for 3 seasons before I got on it, and so there were lots of kids on the show still, and their parents, got to know our parents, and they gave us the rundown. Like, here's what you're in for. Here's what the future looks like. If you haven't got your phone number unlisted,
It's time.
It's time to do that. Change your phone number and get it unlisted. And we're like, we're not changing our phone number. It's our phone number, And sure enough, like the show debuted, the season debuted that I was a part of, and right away the phone starts kind of flying off the hook, and every night it's just a different crop. And my grandma was living with us at the time, and she had early onset, Alzheimer's, and so she would just get on the phone and talk to any of them and just tell them everything, And we were green as a family to this whole Hollywood entertainment thing, and we just didn't know, and we just kept putting off changing the number. I don't know why, but again, innocence of it, whatever. We just didn't get our head around like where this could go. And hey, but I remember, like, there was a couple of these girls that would call from time to time, and I kind of was friendly and polite and kind of whatever, but it was kind of cool.
Right, sure.
Like, yeah. She sounds hot. Yeah. Like, I don't know. She's from Colorado. Okay. And there was this one that they had called a few times, and I kind of like did not shut it down.
Right, sure,
when I probably should have, And one time my cousin was over. It was more like my brother growing up. He was over, and he was just like, so what's your life like now? What's going on? And the phone rings, and it's this girl from Colorado. I'm like, hey, what's he say? He just wants to know hang on.
You talk about
He gets on the phone with this fan, and she like gives him the whole flirty phone voice kind of talk. It was just hilarious.
You're like, that's what it's like.
I said, that's what's going on, And he was like, this is, I can't even, yeah. But, so then gifts started to come in, because again, the address is in the phone book, so I start getting things in the mail, and some of them were really cool. Like, one girl knew I was a Bryan Adams fan, and she sent me a ticket to see Bryan Adams at Madison Square Garden. It was the ticket to the show. She bought it and mailed it to me and said, if you can come to New York, here's your ticket and we'll go together. Like, even that was like, of course I gotta go to New York. I'm gonna go see Bryan Adams at Madison Square Garden. Are you kidding me? Like, I gotta go. And then I was like, maybe I don't gotta go. And my folks and people were like, yeah, dude, you can't.
You can't do that.
Like, it's one thing if you knew her, your friend, family, relative, something, but you can't do that. You get to mail it back. And so I mailed it back. years later, that band and I got reacquainted in New York, and she's like, I'm the one that sent you the. I think she was at MMC 30. You know, like yeah, totally. Like we've been friends over the years, and we always joke about that. Like she goes, that had to seem totally crazy. Like it was crazy, but I was this close.
You're like, oh, okay.
That would have been cool, you know. But this one girl in Colorado that we had called a few times, you know, she sent me a care package one time, and it was like silk boxers, a bottle of Drakkar. A gold chain with like an Italian Malloy horn and a Colorado Rockies like fleece because they were the expansion team that year, and no one else, you couldn't get that stuff anywhere. Yeah. And she was in with the clubhouse or something and got me a Colorado Rockies fleece, and just you know, like, okay, this is cool, but this would probably get weird as I get older if I don't figure out how to like draw some boundaries, man. And so the boundaries went up, and I realized like, okay, I can't be that accessible.
Yeah, I mean, you do have to deal with a lot of fan interactions because a lot of your performances, you do meet and greets afterwards. I mean, it's nowadays it's not like you're playing arenas and you're whisked off to the back. I mean, you're interacting with fans. Yeah. And does that get awkward? Do you have fans that are too possessive, or fans that, I mean, because, my wife, we've been following you guys for years. Yeah. And so I don't know how many times we've seen you, 10, 15 times. Sure. Do people get too knowing, too possessive?
No, there's that essence of like, give them an inch, they take a mile kind of thing in some cases. And so I've always tried to maintain a respectful distance. And I even remember like when I first came out with my music, it was mature. Like my first album was really adult contemporary. It was very not police, but Sting, Dream of the Blue Turtles, sort of jazz-y pop stuff. And I didn't think many of my Mouse Club fans were gonna get it necessarily, and I didn't want to worry about that, but I wanted to like cut it off at the pass and say, like, here's the deal, guys, and this is me. And I like typed up a blog kind of open letter to a Mouse Club fan kind of thing, and it was just like da-da-da-da, and da-da-da, and this is the new me, and you know, sure, love it or leave it, kind of whatever. I don't know what the hell I was trying to say, but it was me just trying to like really carve out this mystique for myself. And had I gotten into a bidding war and become the next big thing, and you know, been that Mouseketeer that was just weird enough that like was ingenue and not boy band or whatever, had that story emerged, maybe that would have been a victory for me. But the further I got along in my career, the more I look back in the rear view on that effort as just, you know, kind of foolhardy and unnecessary, right? You know, because the social media realm, the online presence, the independent DIY thing was really coming, really emerged as my career emerged, and you realize like, unless you get that overnight sensational thing where you're just out of nowhere the next big deal, like a Billie Eilish or something. Not to say she hasn't worked really hard to get to where she's at, but you know what I mean? Like you come out of nowhere and you can afford yourself some space and some mystique and some distance, and maybe not have an Instagram page and still not lose fans because of it. Otherwise, it's more of a slow burn. It's a chipping away at the
you have to learn to appreciate that.
So you got to find that balance of engaging with your fans and getting to know them and getting to appreciate, you know, really expressing and being genuine and authentic with your gratitude for them, because without them, you don't have anything. Right. And it took me a little too long to get that balance. But I feel I have found it, I've embraced it, and I believe my fans know where they sit with me and where I sit with them. And, you know, sometimes you gotta tell people like, listen, when I finish a show, I don't want to talk while I'm wrapping up my cables on stage. I just want to grab my stuff and get out of there. I'll come see you at the merch table, but don't come up and talk to me because I will not be kind. Right. Like, not in that moment, you know? Right. Good show, bad show. Like, that's just a weird phase. That's a weird blind spot for me. So don't approach me then, okay? Cool. And they're like, got it. And then, okay, cool. Sometimes you just got to know where those moments are and be honest about it and be like, yeah.
Communicate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, what's the most impactful thing that a fan has said or done for you? Have you ever had a situation where a fan's statement or maybe a gift came just right at the right moment?
Yeah, there's been quite a few, exchanges of like either a, sort of a two-way street sort of thing, or I've got there's quite a few actually. Well, I get the one that comes to mind right away was I had done a series of custom songs like the one I wrote with you guys for my first Kickstarter project a handful of years ago, and so people supported my Kickstarter campaign, and in exchange for the amount that they supported it, I wrote them a song, and then I eventually made a record of those songs, and it's a really cool, fun record. But one of the songs was for a fan of mine who had just lost her mom, and her mom was her best friend and was there for her thick and thin, and they were super close and tight. And it was a hard song to write, because and I was working on some ideas, and then I saw her at a show before I had finished it, and she was there, and I said, "Oh, thanks for coming, and it's just courageous of you to come out and be here." And she's like, "Yeah, well, I don't know if this thickens the plot, but I just lost my dad." I'm like, "You lost both your parents?" Like, "What? Oh my God! Now, should I rethink the song?" And she's like, "Well, no. To be honest, totally different, apples and oranges kind of thing, but." Oh my God! Okay, so we just kept it to the song about her mom, and then the next time I came through Florida and I saw her, I brought her backstage. I had just finished the song the day before, and she came to the green room, and I played it for her for the first time, and barely got through it, and she barely got through it, and it was just a really emotional thing. The song's called "Quite Like You." There'll never be anyone quite like you, and it's just that kind of sentiment about losing a loved one. There's some imagery in there about needle in the thread and sewing up and stitching and the healing and the mending and that kind of thing. And her mom got her into quilting and showed her that's what they would do together. They quilt and needlework and all this kind of stuff. So as a thank you gift for the song, she made this quilt for me that is thoughtful, doesn't even scratch the surface. In terms of the intention of the materials and the fabric and the way she did it and what went into it, and then she put this little patch in the corner that said, "Thank you so much for helping me heal." Without getting too emotional about it, because it gets there. I get choked up about it because it was really it allowed me to realize, the power of an exchange, the power of connection like that, and that this isn't, you write enough songs, it starts to feel like, "Oh, I wrote a song. Check out this new song." And right. You play a song. "Hey, how about this one? And try this one." And you play them night after night. You're just rattling off all these songs you write. Well, every now and then you get stopped in your tracks, and you're like, "No, these are more than just songs.
This means something.
This is medicine in some cases. This is some powerful shit." And I'm grateful and blessed and honored to have anything to do with this at all. And so that quilt is on my daughter's bed most nights, and I'm in touch with it every day. So it's cool. Thanks, Beth.
Yeah. Quilts can be powerful. So my wife this year. So the things that I took of my brother's were the boots and this hat, but there were all of these, containers of his clothes that, they didn't. No one was his size, and so there wasn't anything to do with them, but we didn't want to throw them away. And so she had a quilt made of his T-shirts this year and gave it to me for Christmas. And I was stifled, I think would be the word. I couldn't communicate. Mm-hmm. And so then she was like, "Do you not like it?" And I was like, just give me a minute, just give me a minute.
Yeah, man.
And so, and and some of those shirts that I could see in the quilt, I could remember when I saw him wearing that shirt the last time,
Smell them.
Right, yeah, and they did smell. He wore a lot of cologne, but he also smoked, and so it's all in there. It's all in there. So that is a beautiful story.
Yeah, man.
I am a little bit teared up.
Verklempt.
So you have been building your career independent, interacting directly with the fans. And when you first started off, when I interviewed Damon, he told a story about all of the fan mail and gifts and things that you would receive, but that the MMC production crew would go through all of that stuff and kind of filter it and then give you the good stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Nowadays, with modern technology, you can produce a song that would have cost tens of thousands of dollars to produce in your house, right? You can self-publish, you can put things out there, you get instant feedback. There is no MMC production crew checking comments before it gets posted to you, and it's public to all the other fans. So things are very different now. So one of the things that I wanted to ask is, with the way technology works today, how do you feel like your career would be different if you were starting over today?
That's a mighty hypothetical on a few levels. I mean, because just for starters, to kind of like equalize things here, I to this day continuously say I can't fathom what it would have been like to try and start a national, international, but like a national fan base without the leg up of having been on a TV show.
Right.
Like, so friends of mine, people that I know that I get to meet that are trying to start a band and grow from a single market and go regional and then go national from there. I really kind of can't get my head around what that work effort would look like, what that workload would entail. That being said, part of me is grateful that there wasn't the social media accessibility thing when I was starting off, and that people still wanted to have CDs and buy CDs when I started making records. But I can imagine that if I were 20-something right now, single, without kids, and all I had to do was figure out how to optimize these platforms and get my stuff out there, then I'd probably be pretty good at it.
Right.
I mean, that's the same 20-something-year-old, 21-year-old who bought his own domain, because that's probably going to be a good idea, right? And knew enough to and was willing to put in the hustle of getting them, going up to my P.O. box to get these checks, take them to the bank and deposit them, and then put these discs in padded envelopes, sign the back, and mail them off to the people that bought them. I had the hustle, I had the gears, I had all of that ready to go. And I imagine if I were young again and TikTok and all these things were at my disposal, that I would probably
hustle.
I'd probably be pretty solid at it. I'm at a point now where it's like, yet another platform I gotta figure out. Man, I'm over it. You know where to find me, TonyLucca.com. So I'm just I'm gonna say I'm over it, but I'm resigned to the idea that I'm going to continue to let my audience age and do the things I need to do to continue to make new fans and continue to network and make relevant music as best I can. But if I were 44. Starting out right now, wife and kids, I don't know that I would.
Yeah,
I really don't know that I would do that.
Right.
So that's what I mean. There's a few different variables
scenarios,
in your hypothetical that would be well, if I was young and this, that. But I think it's pretty cool the way that a lot of I get on social media mostly to just kind of observe and study and see who's doing what to promote.
Right.
What's effective.
Right.
What do I see as being okay, oh, I like that. Oh, I don't like that. I don't want to come off like that.
Right.
Or, man, I should do a better job at doing that, because that is authentic and I like that. And clearly it's got 150,000 views. I should probably do some more stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly comparing, and that thing like everyone does when they get on social media. But a lot of it is reconnaissance and development.
Yeah. So I'm going through something kind of similar.
Time for the old Forester.
Yeah, old Forester time. Just trying to build a listener base and get the word out and all of that. Nothing on that scale. I'm no Billie Eilish. I'm just an idiot that no one could stop from doing a podcast. But going through that process and getting that feedback and trying something and it works, but it has an adverse reaction that you didn't expect.
Yeah.
And you're always creating content. And there's times that I'm pouring my heart into something and I think, oh my God, this is going to really resonate, right?
Yeah.
And I expect that I'm going to drop this and boom, like it's going to go viral and everyone's going to love it. Mm-hmm. And then there's other times that I'm kind of phoning it in, if you will.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's I have to release something on a certain schedule, and so I'm just releasing content. And I am often shockingly wrong about what the people are going to like and consume and what they won't. Do you experience that same thing when you're creating music? Where you have a song that you think is like, well, I need so many songs on an album,
For sure, man. Well, right now I'm doing this 2020 by request tour effort. So all of my shows this year, I'm just giving myself the whole year, basically, just having fun with it being 2020, which is a big deal. Here we are in 2020.
Right.
I mean, that's weird. But making use of like the whole hindsight 2020 thing. So this whole retrospective idea that, let's go back through the catalog and I'm going to come out and play shows playing only what you guys want to hear. Mm-hmm. I could sit here and put together a set list of the things I think y'all should hear, new stuff that I want you to hear, but I want to give them what they want, literally what they want. So people are getting on Facebook and they're putting in the requests, tell me they come to the show, and then I put the set list is by them. And it's really interesting how what's being requested, what songs keep appearing, what songs are doing well. And like, for example, I've got this record Shotgun that, was my first commercially distributed record. It was in Tower Records, wow, it was a big deal for me. But it's got a bit more of a commercial sound to it. I'm not super proud of certain things about it where like, if it's out there and it pops up on someone's Spotify or Pandora next to like Matt Nathanson or Jason Mraz or, Alan Stone, do I want someone to hear a song and be like, what is that? Mm-hmm. That's Tony Lucca? It's one of those things like, I wouldn't mind if those recordings weren't out there in the ether forever. Like whatever reasons, I've been shying away from this record, not to mention the fact that I have boxes of it in jewel cases and traveling with CDs in jewel cases, let alone trying to sell them at shows. It's like, get over it, man. It's just not. So I kind of quit promoting that record, quit traveling with it, quit touring with it, quit playing songs from it. But doing this 2020 by request thing, I can't. I had one show where it was damn near the entire record.
Album.
And I was like, what? Screw me. What do I know?
Right.
I guess I gotta start carting around those jewel cases again, man, because shit, But then as I got refamiliar with the songs and started to play them more, I'm like,
there's some part
the record as a sonic thing we didn't hit it. We didn't hit the mark. We didn't nail it. But the songs and where I was and what I was saying then was fearless. It was aggressive. It was cool. I was going through a really exciting time. That's when I really thought shit was going to happen. It was like, I was inevitable, man. That's when I was touring with NSYNC and Mark Anthony, like, yeah, I'm the guy. I'm the guy.
I'm the next thing.
Right. And so that's where my head was at. So those were the songs were coming from. And over the years, I kind of poo-pooed that record and just, I've bested that record many times. I don't need to be bringing that record around. Turns out, that's what people want to hear, man. So, yeah, shame on me. And so, but a great answer, I don't say a great answer to your question, but like a perfect example of what you're talking about. Like, what do I know? And another interesting thing that's been really interesting is there at various times I'll offer up handwritten lyrics, like through my website or Kickstarter or for online shows. You can purchase a song of your choice, and I'll write out the lyrics to it. And when I do that, like I put the title at the top, and then I put in parentheses, the writers, the first initial and last name of all the writers on the song. And, more and more of my songs now that I live in Nashville are co-writes, and so there's anywhere from 2 to 4 writers on a song, and I would never just write out a lyric and not include whoever wrote that song. Yeah. Just, hey. And so what has been a really encouraging and fascinating, interesting thing is that 9 out of 10 of these that people pay me to do this were just songs I wrote.
You wrote.
Just me. And here I think I'm writing these brilliant songs in Nashville with these great writers who have written hits for X, Y, and Z. And nah, we want Death of Me. We want, whatever it was, or Around the Bend, or Honestly for You. You're going all the way back to the earlier songs. And that's just like, it's humbling. It's also entirely gratifying.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. All right, I'm not bad at this.
That's beautiful.
Just maybe do this for a living.
That's beautiful. Yeah. So you have gone through a lot of ups and downs, transitions. You are experimenting with some new avenues to impact people's lives lately. And so what does the future of Tony Lucca look like? In your vision.
In my vision, I am. I'm still traveling and touring extensively, but that I'm speaking more, that I'm teaching, and I'm doing adjunct professorial stuff and lectures and seminars and keynote addresses and talking to young emerging artists who are really contemplating a career and a lifestyle of living in the arts, living as a creative professional. Because at this point, my body of work I feel speaks for itself. I don't feel like I have anything to prove as a writer, as an artist, as a person who's got 1 million stories to tell and 1,000 names to drop. I've had a lot of fun. It's been great. I wouldn't trade any of it. But there's a youthfulness and an energy to the younger artists that are out there that have that spark and flame and fire that I had back in the days when I was in my 20s. I don't see myself ever not writing and wanting to record and put records out and that kind of thing. But there was something about turning 40 that made me step back and realize just how self-serving this work is. It demands that you be fully immersed in yourself, and you got to be careful with that. You got to know how to do that. And I feel like because I'm still here to laugh and joke and brag about 30 years in the business, that I've done a good job of that. But it wasn't without a lot of expensive lessons, and it wasn't without a shit ton of experience. That now I can bottle that up and sell it. I can share that. I can make that of service to someone, and not be constantly chasing my name on the marquee,
right?
Like I have been for the last 30 years. So I feel like there's a way to not look at 30 years and be like, damn it, I never really got as big as I should have been or wanted to be, or with any aspect of regret, as opposed to just taking 30 years and be like, man, you went 30 years doing nothing but music. That's awesome.
Right.
Way to go, bro. And you got a wife and kids that you support with this. All right, take a beat, man. But help others realize that this path is viable, that this can happen, that this is, given all the changes and all the, the industry's gonna change. It always did, it always will, it's always gonna. And it's not about, I'm not gonna give you the crucible and the playbook for how to make it in music business in 2020. Good luck. But in a timeless capacity, there's so many things about like I said, a life in art, a life in the creative field, that are timeless, that regardless of the technology and the advancements, like there's a headspace that you need to occupy. There's a morning routine. There's a clarity, a purity of thought and wellness that is so important, and you know, everything from the creative drive to the logistics, to the planning, to the organization. It's a lot. And it you know, and I feel like I know what I'm talking about when I talk about it now, and I want to do that. I want to do a lot of that. So yeah, I want to get into like sitting down and writing a book. I want to put all these stories in a book and maybe tie it into some interesting way of saying, not for nothing, you know?
Right?
Like, you know, writing, speaking, teaching, and now like online. There's gonna be a lot more online presence, I think. You know, we'll see. Connecting more people online so that I'm leaving the home less frequently and spending more time with my wife and kids, because they're getting older, and the older your kids get, you know this, you know, the more you realize like, okay, this is not like back in the days when we would play Contra and you could go start over and up, down, left, right. Maybe if you start like, you get 30 free lives. Like, this is we get one go at this, man. And I don't want to miss out on any more than I've already missed out on. So I'm really trying to like steer the ship into more of a work-life balance. And I feel like that's something to achieve and not something to resign to. And so I'm making those efforts these days. I'm taking those strides to improve myself in those capacities so that I don't sweat it.
Yeah, and you don't have to talk about this if you don't want to, but you're working on a podcast, right?
I am working on a podcast, and it's called the Be What You Do podcast, which stemmed from this whole conversation about that I have been in the business of Tony Lucca for 30 years, you know, like, what do you do? I do Tony Lucca. Like, that's,
Tony Lucca does.
Who do I make this out to? Tony Lucca. Like, that's my business, and that's what I do, and you realize, like, most entrepreneurs are what they do. Like,
right.
It's you wake up and you go to bed with your job. You are your job. You are doing what you do, and that can be exhausting, and that can be, like, defeating, but there's so much inspiration out there for people that are doing it, you know, yourself included. You know what it entails, and there's so many hacks and secrets and tricks and yet principles and disciplines and things that we can all speak to. And I know a lot of people, you know, I know a lot of people in the business and different, you know, positions and producers, writers, people in film and television. And I figure it's just a matter of like chasing them down and sitting them down for an hour and talking about, you know, right now, the first season of the podcast in my head is discussing the art of the pivot. There's different times in your career where you got to pivot, whether it's you know, a why not pivot, which was like me and the Mickey Mouse Club. I was a kid in a garage band in Michigan, and someone said, "Hey,
well, why not?"
I'm like, why not? You know, like, let's go see what happens. See what happens, and that turns out to be the most pivotal pivot of my career. And then there's like the second tier of pivoting, which is like the pivot to improve, the upward pivot, where like you got this going on, but I got this opportunity to go do this, higher pay, benefits, whatever it is, I'm gonna pivot.
Right.
And you move, and next thing you know, you graduate, and you next tier, next level of success. And then the third is pivot or die. You know, like when you get into a toxic environment, or you reach like the end of the road, and like you got to figure something out.
Right.
You got to provide for your family. Like whatever it is, you got to go. You got to make a move, figure it out. You know, and it's been interesting because the few conversations I've had now and the interviews that I've done, it's just awesome because again, it doesn't matter what the field, doesn't matter what the craft of each of these people I interview, the principles are the same, you know, and so it tends to be a two-part conversation, you know, like give me the backstories of some of the more interesting pivots, but now give me the business of being what you do. Like, give me like what you're doing to what are some of your principles that would apply to anyone in any field. You know, what are you doing? How does it work? And it's been cool. It's a lot of work, man, and I applaud your diligence because it takes that, you know, and I feel like if I can settle into more of a routine weekly groove in my life, the podcast will sort of be a little more a little more momentum on it. But right now, I've been really careful with who I'm interviewing and selective, and scheduling these things takes a minute. But my idea is to do a whole season and then launch it, and then work and slave away for a few more months on another season. But yeah, man, I love that it's a thing. Like, people want to hear people talk about stuff. Like,
I don't listen to the radio.
No one I
listen to is podcasts.
They listen to podcasts.
If I want to listen to music, I go to iTunes and I play exactly what I want to hear. I don't need a DJ to tell me what to listen to.
And I don't need commercials that, like, you hear commercials like, who are you talking to with that voice? Like, I'm not going to buy that. I don't buy you.
That's amazing. So if people want to get more information about you and what you've got coming up in the future, where should they go?
Man, I hate to say it, but like old school, TonyLucca.com. There's a sign up for my mailing list there, and that has never gone away. Sometimes it's Facebook where I get a little more traction. Sometimes it's Instagram. Sometimes it's Twitter. I will say, if you're sniffing around, my Instagram and Twitter handle is @LucaDoes, which I thought was clever, and it's just dumb.
It is what it is now.
But Lucca does own it, and so that's where you can find me. But Facebook Tony Lucca, and YouTube Tony Lucca, Patreon.com Tony Lucca, and now I'm just jumping on this new platform called Topeka, which is a really wonderful online fan to artist interface where we can do guitar lessons, vocal lessons. I can play concerts, serenades. We can just chew the fat and sip bourbon.
Whatever.
Yeah,
whatever. If you want to get more information about Bourbon Real Talk, you can get that at Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube /Bourbon Real Talk. You can look us up on your favorite podcast player. And I always end every broadcast with the same statement. And my wife suggested that I explain to people why I say what I say. My wife is sitting off camera, so if you see me looking off to the side, that's why. But I always say, if you woke up this morning and you did not know whether or not anyone loved you, just know that I love you. And I say that because I've come across so many people who were discouraged because they felt unloved. And I believe that it's why my brother took his own life. And so I hope that this podcast helps people to feel connected and helps people to know that they are loved. So if you woke up this morning and you were unsure whether or not anyone loved you, just know that I love you. And I'll see you next time on Bourbon Real Talk.
Cool, dude. Right on. Cheers, brother.
Cheers.
I appreciate that so much.